We're equally concerned about the do-it-yourself community, not because this community of biohackers represents an inherently malicious or nefarious group, but because of their relative vulnerability to infiltration. And we recognize that to such an extent that at present, the Federal Bureau of Investigation in this country has dedicated ongoing efforts to try to maintain continued communication, interaction, and engagement with this community so as to be able to better surveil their relative vulnerability to purloinment, infiltration, manipulation, and misuse. Clearly, if we're looking at these things as possible destructive weapons, the more characteristic or classic criteria
I'm
drugs,
completely
bugs,
amazed
toxins meet at least some
that
of the extant categorizations of the
this is
biological
actually
toxins,
happening in
weapons,
the
and
world
chemical
today.
conventions. However, as
It's disgusting. It's disturbing. It's pure fucking disrespect. I'm completely flabbergasted that they're actually allowing this to happen. And on top of that, the ones who are behind it are the same ones who are supposed to uphold the law that we're supposed to follow. If you don't know what I'm talking about being targeted by the higher up portions of the government, which is Homeland Security, the Department of Defense, FBI, the CIA, all the way down the chain of command to your local sheriff and police agencies. And people are being targeted to a level which is almost unexplainable and almost unimaginable. And it's actually destructive, not disruptive, like a spokesperson would like to call it. There's a big difference between the word disruptive and destructive. And the tools and technology that I'm talking about, which law enforcement and government uses to target people with, they are destructive weapons. A spokesperson named James Giordano that goes around and does a bunch of little seminars and he has his little speeches and whatnot. Very smart guy. I'll give him that. He's got 3 decades plus 30 years total plus in the brain and science field. So the guy's very knowledgeable. This guy, I would call him the spokesperson for the government. He's kind of easing what I'm about to speak of into civilization. He's making an introduction, trying to normalize the weapons that I'm talking about. This man, James Giordano, actually went to the point in one of his segments to try to normalize the word weapon and make the word weapon. He gives the definition of the word weapon, which is hilarious, and then tries to de-patter the word weapon to make the word weapon look innocent. So you could automatically assume that after someone like that does something like that, they're gonna try to make everything else that they talk about look innocent as well. Now, most of his segments, he speaks about a very advanced form of remote monitoring, brain interfacing, basically the newest technology that they have out right now that they don't talk about, but he does talk about. And they're only allowing him to talk about a certain amount of the technology, because if they were to tell you the whole truth and everything that comes with this technology, it would literally start a civil war. And they know that. So they can't do that. So they have to have somebody like James Giordano, who's sliding his foot in the door, we'll call it, and slowly trying to normalize this technology into society, easing his way in with it. And like I said, he tried to normalize the word weapon because they are literally weapons. These weapons have very strong capabilities, negative and positive. But in this case, these departments of the government, which I previously stated, they're not using them for positive reasons. And the reason why I'm getting into this subject is because I've been a target of this for almost a decade myself. Yeah, I know I got the gold on and all this stuff right now and whatnot, and I'm doing okay now, but at one point I was as good as dead, literally, because of this program, this classified program, which James speaks so innocently about. Reason why I want to talk about it is because I want targets themselves and other people that don't know about the technology to have a true understanding from the receiving end and the capabilities and what it can do to somebody and somebody's life. Not just somebody's life, but people around them. The destruction, not disruption like James would call it, but destruction that this causes to humanity. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of strong possibilities. The possibilities for this technology, like James says, there is so many things you could use this technology for. But unfortunately, through loopholes and corrupted systems, which I'll call them private contracts with the government, stuff gets out of hand very quickly. And this man, which I just mentioned his name several times, he actually specifies this in several videos, the runaway effects.
On one side, there are some great things that occur within and as a consequence of open science and community science, the quote hacking community. The do-it-yourself community, for example, can make incredible inroads in being able to develop innovation, invention, and then shape, if you will, the field in reciprocity what's going on in the mainstream. But the mere act of do-it-yourself also opens at least a possibility for the fact that there may be some loss of regulatory control, governance, oversight, and of course the implication there may be safety, not only for the researchers themselves, but of runaway effects, doing something that ordinarily might not be done, and as a consequence, therefore, things getting out of control, getting out of hand, and perhaps not being controllable.
And unfortunately, the bad outweighs the good 10 times over in what I'm about to speak of. To the fact that the negative effects that this can have to humanity and civilization are way more of a risk than the positive stuff that we can use from this technology. Now I understand why they have this technology, C4ISR tools. These are just some of the tools that come along with the technology, the advanced technology. C4ISR tools, if you don't know what C4ISR is, go ahead and look it up. But I forget what it is. C4 meaning there's 4 C's: command, control, communication, I is intelligence, R reconnaissance. These are tools that the higher portions of the government are utilizing. A big communication system. Now, something above and in that category, which is satellite technology, is being used by people who shouldn't be using it. Now, the reason why most people, most targets, and most people that know about this technology think that it's okay and that it's a government thing, and James Giordano likes to call them scientists. The do-it-yourself community is another great word another great phrase he likes to use. The do-it-yourself. Oh, and there's another one too. Basement hackers, he calls them. if these are basement hackers, the do-it-yourself community, and scientists, which he states, they are literally in close corridors and close contact with the FBI.
I think that there's a relative suspicion, if you will, on certain aspects of the do-it-yourself community about governmental oversight. And there's been a bit of pushback, although I must tell you there's also been a very strong and formative collaboration here in the United States between the do-it-yourself community and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And let me explain the reason for that, because I know about this intimately well. The reason for that is that the do-it-yourself community also has certain vulnerabilities. Let me explain. The do-it-yourselfer is very often working with certain forms of venture capital or other areas of support that then allow their science to progress. And there are forces, both state actors as well as non-state actors, that see the do-it-yourself community as a possible vector to manipulate and guide science. And again, although the do-it-yourself community, I truly believe, operates under a maxim of trying to do good and ethically sound science, let's face it, the reality is that there are individuals out there who recognize the power of science, particularly the biosciences, and look to infiltrate that on those ways that direct it into ways that may be capricious at least and nefarious at worst. So understanding the vulnerability of that community to that level of infiltration and effect, I think, has been important. And there has been a very good and solid cooperative relationship between the Federal Bureau of Investigation and aspects of the do-it-yourself community to engage some level of cursory and formal oversight, or at least reporting, this is what's going on, this is where we're going, and certainly I think keeping the antenna well-tuned to the possibility of capricious or nefarious infiltration. And that's been an important thing to do.
I know he doesn't want to admit that they're government, but if they're using government tools, which are C4ISR tools, and satellites, which are only allowed to be utilized by people that work at NASA and law enforcement, and these people are using these tools, those are government tools, which makes the people that are using them government property as well.
This is very simple. If they are government tools and you are considering them weapons, then the people that are utilizing them need to be government employees. And since you're considering them the do-it-yourself community, shows how absolutely outrageous this is. That would make these people non-government employees using government weapons, which would be terrorists. Because if I used a government weapon, I would be considered a terrorist.
Whether you want to admit that or not, the people that are sitting there using the tools that DARPA made. DARPA is another private government agency that creates all these high-tech and advanced tools for, CIA, FBI, the other agencies I've listed. These are government tools. Why are these people that you're letting use these tools, why are you putting them in a category as basement hackers? I'm curious to know that answer when you know they're not basement hackers. Scientist is another good term you like to use. You know they're not scientists, and I'm going to get into the reasons why. When you have private contracts and you outsource work through these agencies, there is no screening process. You could have a private agency that works with any of these DOD, HSI, FBI, CI. You could have a private contract with anybody, and through that private contract, they can hire whoever they want. The only reason why you guys are not claiming this is because you don't want the backlash that comes along with it, because you guys know how serious and how disgusting the shit is that you're doing to people. So you can't be held accountable. So you can't just put these remote neuro monitoring groups in FBI stations and police stations, because it breaks every law that we have and breaks all our rights as Americans. Every right that we have is literally being violated. So you can't claim these tools, and you can't claim the people that are using these tools as yours. So I understand why you're calling them basement hackers. And I understand why you're calling them scientists and the science academies and this, that, and the third. But one thing I want you to understand is, if you don't know, James, sir, but I do want you to understand something. If you're ignorant to the fact that through private contracts, they could be hiring literally anybody, then I want you to understand something. To be a part of a cult, you don't have to have any qualifications. It's a brainwashing cult. That's what they brainwash everyone in these cults. It's like a something you see out of a movie. We know about cults. Charles Manson was in a cult leader. So we know about cults. America knows about cults. Now, when the CIA, the DOD, and the HSI, all these other agencies are outsourcing work to cults and turning the other cheek, like you guys are doing, there's so many bad things that could happen in that situation. These cults that you have remote neural monitoring targets could have rooms filled with anybody. And I know what you guys are doing. You're just turning the other cheek and you're hoping everything goes smooth. But you admitted yourself in one of your seminars, one of your videos, you admitted it. There's several negative runaway effects that could be caused and maybe not controllable, like you said.
They'll also be somewhat internally governed, where a group of individuals who are working within that biohacking community, do-it-yourself community, will self-police and recognize that there are directions they can go and things they can do and things they shouldn't. But like any other community, what you tend to find is it's broadly distributed. And there are possibilities both for inadvertent misuse of the science and or things that go wrong, and in some cases, intentional misdirection of the science, perhaps not even in a malevolent way, just a let's see what happens if we do this, it's never been gone before, let's not ask permission, and in other cases, a disruptive way. And let's face it, individuals' agendas can be everything from just curiosity and some form of scientific agnosticism to really having an agenda to be socially, publicly disruptive. Not necessarily in a destructive way, but perhaps in a disruptive way. But you are dealing with life sciences, and that can be problematic. We have to look at the safety issues that go along with that, and also the delicacy of how we would govern that and guide that, and yet at the same time not stultify innovation or invention. So it's a curious issue, but I think one that certainly is coming to the fore ever more as the do-it-yourself community grows.
When you're watching somebody illegally with C4ISR tools, which are military-grade technology, and you're watching people and you're not governing or applying a screening process to who's being hired in these private cults and these private contracts with these departments. You are hiring and allowing them to hire pedophiles, sexual predators, people that have no business being in this line of work at all. And I think they know that, and I think you guys know this, because scientists wouldn't do this shit to people. Scientists usually go to college and have degrees and spend years going to college. Scientists are very smart people. Scientists would know better. What goes hand in hand with being smart, usually in 90% of the time, is stronger morals. When you're smart, usually you can know right from wrong. Your moral rate is usually higher. Your morality is usually higher. It goes hand in hand with it 90% of the time. The smarter you are, usually you have way stronger morals. So if these are scientists, they would know when enough is enough. They would know who to target, who not to target. They would know what to do with this technology to benefit America. The people that you have in these rooms, They're satisfied with sitting in these rooms, literally torturing people. Not just, a couple hours in a day. These fucking scumbag pedophile losers that you have sitting in these rooms are torturing people with this technology. They're hitting people with beams, locking onto one target as an experiment for years on end. Group shift changes. So when a target goes to sleep, another group of people come in, they swap out, and they have the next group of fucking morons sitting there, manipulating their dreams when they're sleeping, pressing buttons, hitting them with microwave radiation, causing pain to all these targets. These people are literally terrorists. They're using military grade C4ISR tools, and they're targeting people in America with them. These are terrorists. This is why you're keeping this shit quiet, and you're trying to ease the word weapon in. It's not what you're trying to make it. They're targeting underage people. These are sexual predators. These people are disgusting. And you know this. And you admitted in several of your videos that they have close contact with the FBI. And this is why they think they can do whatever they want. Runaway effects. We're way past runaway effects.
There are plenty of people who behave and color within the lines, so to speak. They go by the rules. But very often, there are also individuals who may not be aware of those rules, number one, pure what I'll call naivete, or the idea of trying to be inventive, and as a consequence, they drift from going in between the lines. They sort of say, well, I'm going to take this direction versus that direction, and in so doing, they open up a proverbial can of worms, don't realize that they're doing something that's prescribed. And then, as you say, there are also individuals who may have some real intent. And the intent may not necessarily be malevolent intent. It just may be, let's push the envelope and see how far it goes. And then there's always a smaller population who say, yes, let's do that in a way that is malevolent, because we want to push the envelope so as to create something. We don't care what it is, as long as it's disruptive or destructive. And this will either gain attention to what it is we're doing or evoke some social effect, whatever that may be.
So what happens to this small percentage that you're speaking about? They just get away with it? Where is the punishment? Where is the law in situations like this? How do you allow these people to just get away with this?
Targets are killing themselves. And know what these people do? They go to the next target, latch onto them for your data collection and your experimentation and your weapons testing group, because they're fucking weapons. You guys don't give a fuck. People go on mass shootings, kill fucking 10, 20 different people, and it's caused by this technology that you have up there, and these groups of people that are making these people psych driving, making them go crazy. Neuro-linguistic programming. You're putting the wrong people in these fucking rooms, and they're literally doing whatever they please. And since they're pedophiles and sexual predators and chomos, they're taking this technology and they're using this shit the way a pedophile or a child molester would use it. They're not sitting here stopping wars on terrorism. They should be using the technology. They could be, but they're not doing that. You're not hiring scientists to do this. Make it legit and hire scientists. Right now you're going through a weapons testing phase with it. So you're hiring you're outsourcing the work with private contracts, and they're hiring pedophiles and expendable child molesters and scumbags. These people do not have the proper credentials to be utilizing C4ISR tools. They don't have the proper capabilities. They're definitely not smart enough. They will lie just to watch a target. Do you have any idea of what these people are doing? They can say whatever they want just to target somebody. They can lie. They can make up a whole fucking chain of lies. Sit there, since there's no governing or no stipulations on what you have going on in monitoring these people, they can make up a lie about somebody. You guys won't even look into it. Oh, okay, just turn the other cheek, right? Meanwhile, these little fucking pedophiles are using this technology in the most malicious, disturbing way possible. And you guys are just sitting back, allowing this to happen.
This is a humongous loophole and a humongous problem in the system. The amount of money that's invested into targeting individuals like myself is actually really amazing. With that being said, how is there not a verification process on why the target is even being targeted to begin with? They could literally say anything and there is no proof. Nobody is there to control, monitor the reason for the target even being targeted to begin with. The monitors of this technology are both incompetent and unqualified. Letting the do-it-yourself community operate without governance is literally insanity.
You're worried about the safety, like you said in one of your videos, of your scientists? What? They're terrorists. Get people that are out of school to do this. What's the matter? They won't do it? They don't want to do it? They're too smart for it, right? You don't have any other choice but to hire a bunch of pedophiles. Because scientists and people with degrees wouldn't use the technology to the level that these people are using it. Oh, what else is wrong? You can't legalize it because it breaks every fucking right we have as Americans?
But this then raises the specter of, are you impinging on individuals' rights and freedoms? And on one hand, the answer may be yes. This then gets us into the issue of looking at privacy versus protection.
So you can't go through the books with it and you can't make it legal? So you can't hire legitimate people? Is that what's wrong? So you use private sources and they hire pedophiles? These people are pedophiles. I suggest you check into it if you don't know. But I think you know, because you try to normalize the word weapon. And just the fact that one of your segments you said, and they are scientists, makes me believe that they're not scientists.
Their obligation as scientists, and they are. I mean, these are valid, well-trained scientists, well-trained on a variety of levels.
Ha! Why would you double back on that and say that with such emphasis? You're a smart dude, bro, and I know you got a lot more years doing brain, studying the brain than I do, but I've been studying for almost 10 years now. I know more of these people that probably work for you. I did 3 years in prison because of this shit. I studied every day about the human brain myself.
How do you justify using this technology on somebody while they're incarcerated for 3 years the whole time? And meanwhile, the 5 years before that led up to these events that got me incarcerated to begin with, where is the justification process? If we are considered targets because we are threats, then where is the threat in me being incarcerated? And if they're using some sort of false narrative or an excuse to target me, where is the proof? Because I think they need to prove the reasoning for even targeting me to begin with.
I need you guys to know this. It's not AI. It's 100% people. An analogy real quick. I don't got much time. Windows, the operating program. Very complex program. We learned this shit when we were in 5th grade to sit down and operate them. Sit down when you're in 4th grade and learn how to type on a computer. Just because this technology is this advanced does not mean that dumbasses can't use it. I need you to know that. Windows was stepped down millions and millions of times to have an interface for even 5th graders to use. Same thing with this technology. Starts off at a quantum computer, steps all the way down to an interface which even pedophiles can use. So miss me with that bullshit with the scientists. You got one little pedophile sitting here pressing a button. You have another little pedophile sitting over here turning a switch to adjusting a frequency. One clicking a mouse. You know what I'm saying? Stop telling people these are scientists. These are fucking pedophiles. Sexual predators. They got beat up and picked on their whole lives. They look like Napoleon Dynamite and Stuart from Mad TV. Hire scientists, not a bunch of chicken shit cowards that have no fucking life and expendable to the world.
I already know what they're gonna try to do. They're gonna try to put pressure on me from every law enforcement agency possible, even if it means manufacturing something on me. I've been through this before for about 10 years, so I understand what they're gonna try to do. It's a risk I took before I recorded the video. But instead of doing what's right and making the people that are responsible for misusing government technology pay for what they do, they're gonna try to make me disappear. And as unfortunate as that sounds, as an intimidation technique, it's not gonna work against me. So just know that whatever happens to me, I will have this video copied, put on flash drives. If it disappears off the internet, I will have somebody that has a flash drive that will re-upload it again. My lawyer will have a copy of this video as well. So with that being said, you can't play checkers, you have to play chess, especially dealing with a multi-billion-dollar industry and the real threat, which is the people using this technology. Do what's right. Make them pay for what they do to people. So I am not the threat. The only way I'm considered a threat is exposing the truth. I do not want to make these videos. Trust me, I have a million other things I'd rather be doing. If they were not still doing what they were doing, I wouldn't be dropping these videos at all. Make them disappear. It's very simple. Shut their computer lab down and make them push a broom again. It's very easy. They're the only threat to what you have going on.